So far a lot of hyena tracks off the road, and I'm still convinced that the hyena den is somewhere on this road. Gallagher shortcut. Been an elephant here too, going back the other way. Might have been one tracks were on Ellies road. Head down a little bit to the west first. I don't want to miss out on anything down this end. One of them's a dog and one of them's a cat. One of them comes in numbers and one of them, it's the dogs really. See where the local pack of dogs have gotten to, see if they might have been moving around this part of the world. Also see if there's been any heater anyway. Hello Hippoo. Sorry, any heat anyway. Hello Hippoo. Sorry, Hippoo. So far only hippos. Not really expecting much of the water on a cool morning like this, but there is a lovely open area here and there's a chance of lying around the edge of the open area, waiting for Impala to come by perhaps, maybe. Well, go and visit the rising sun. I don't know if you can hear the sound. Really lovely light on it. Undoubtedly a predator somewhere. Or something somewhere. That is upsetting the squirrel. The tail flicking is part of the alarming. Draw attention to itself so that others can see where it is looking, and hopefully others can see the predator too. Not too frantic though. I'm not seeing anything move and there's no way to get in there. We'll look at it further, but par for the course really. I think 9 out of 10 times we never really get to see what a squirrel is showing. When I'm at home all the squirrels that live around me can wake up in the morning and they can be shouting their little heads off. I'll walk around for hours looking for something and there's nothing. I can't see what it was they were shouting at. Sometimes snakes, sometimes maybe just another rival perhaps. But when it's a leopard, they get the intensity of that shouting and the alarming changes. Ellie in Canada, morning to you. First question, are there any rare plants or animals in this area? Not endangered ones, but there are some rare lion tracks coming in. I have to think about that one, Shelley. We came up Gallagher shortcut. There was nothing there. So I need to... I'll get back to you in a minute, Shelley. I'm just going to walk around. I want to see where these lion tracks came from. Maybe see how old they are. Oh, I just unplug it. I'm thinking maybe that was the Matimbas when they came in the other day to kill that buffalo. It looked fairly fresh from this angle, but there's so many other tracks. There are elephant tracks, genet, hippo, hyena. There's so many other tracks that are a lot fresher on top of the lion tracks. So that was probably where the Matimba males came in the other day when they came in to kill the buffalo. So, rare animals, not necessarily endangered, was pretty much... Let me think, rare animals... A couple of nocturnal species of animals. I guess because we don't see them, can we consider them rare? Or is it rare because there aren't that many? Things like the striped polecat, also known as a zorilla, for one. A lot of snake tracks, by the way. Just the third snake track I've got in the road. There are a number of other flower or ground-dwelling plants that, while they might not necessarily be rare, their flowering sequence depends a lot on, or rather their flowering depends on the sequence of weather that happens. Whether there is rain and then cloud for several days. I mean, orchids, for example. I'm sure there are a number of, at least a couple of ground-dwelling orchids, but if there's too much sun, they're not going to flower. There's too little sun or too much, I don't know, too little rain. There's some plants that are so dependent on very specific conditions, that they can go for years without flowering because those conditions, or that sequence of rain and cloud and sun, hasn't happened for them. Some of the lilies, and of course I guess I could think of probably a handful of, or a number of trees that are rare here but not necessarily rare elsewhere, because the area that we have to cover, this part of Kunyuma, might not have the right soil types, doesn't have permanent river running through it, and some of the trees that one can consider rare generally growing along permanent rivers. Spider webs, the brush hippo tracks. Small leopard tracks, that looks, but they were in the sand when the sand was wet, so they're not very fresh. That's the kind of track, kind of Karula's size track. We've been seeing so many male, it's been a while since I've seen the female leopard's tracks, but they're not very fresh, but she must have been here. Last couple of days. Morning, Cindy. Cindy is in Tennessee, and Cindy wants to know the difference between lion and leopard tracks. Mostly size, Cindy. Lion and leopard are completely. Lion's twice the size of leopard. Their tracks are very much bigger than a leopard's tracks. Now, there are other subtle things. I think if you look at the, forgetting about size, if you look at the shape of the track. If you look at the whole shape, maybe draw a line around the edge of the track, you'll find that a lion's print tends to be more egg-shaped than round, and a leopard's print is more round. And the same goes for the toes of the track. When you look at the toes of a lion, they tend to be more egg-shaped, more oval. And when you look at the toe prints of a leopard, they're very round toes. But size, I guess, mostly size. There are comparisons between a leopard's track and, of course, young lion, but then when there are young lion, you're invariably going to have adults with them. So, and other than that, because leopard tend to move around on their own a lot when they're with cubs, but when they're moving around on their own, their tracks are quite distinct. There's never other tracks around it. The way roads, I guess invariably when you've got lion, you've got more than one, and that's, I suppose, what I'm trying to get at. This is hippo tracks on the track heading straight line direction. We're going probably up to buffels of that. Maybe we'll have to stop at buffels. It gets solitary, but they're going to be.
And welcome Sands. As I'm sure you're well aware, it's a beautiful morning, and we've got Brian on camera today, and as soon as we stop, I'm sure you'll see. Well, you'll have to keep an eye out for when his thumb's going to pop out today, I guess. But the only clue I can give you is that it will be when we have stopped. As then Brian does not have to concentrate on the camera work too much, or on the variables that he does have to concentrate on when we are driving. We've just gone down to check out some old hyena den sites, but sadly they haven't moved back in there yet. And we're driving through this area. We have found some tracks of Kunyuma, a young male leopard who we have been following quite closely, especially over the last few days. We've been getting lucky in finding him. This track's headed into a very big block with not many roads going through it, so now we're just looping around that block, and I think we're going to find his tracks fairly soon on this next road that we take, and we'll see what happens thereafter. It's a nice and crisp morning. We were all quite cold coming into work. On these open vehicles, I mean, it's not very cold here, but with the wind chill factor on the open vehicles, it tends to us shivering, but we certainly aren't used to any form of cool weather. Maybe we'll stop here. It's a beautiful viewpoint. Brian already is showing you a little bit of the scenery out to the east this morning. And thankfully the weather continues to look after us. Okay. Like I said, I don't think it'll be too long before we find some more of Kunyuma's track, I'm hoping. If he continued south through the block, he was basically moving from our right to our left. So I'm hoping that we'll find some of his tracks coming out on this road. Oh, here they are. Well, that was easier than expected. Okay, I lied. These might not be his tracks. These could be Mvula's tracks. He's actually Kunyuma's father, because he was also in this area last night and didn't see any of his tracks leaving where we saw him yesterday with the kill. So it might just be worth following these anyway, just to see where they head. The thing with following tracks is, even though they may be from early last night, the leopard could have made a kill 100 meters away. Even if they're 2 days old, the leopard could still be nearby. So these are certainly from last night. How early last night is difficult to tell. I'd have to really get out and have a close inspection. But what's important is that we know that a leopard moved through this area, and we are following in its footsteps. Where did he decide to head at this four-way junction? Has he continued straight? Guessing he would have continued straight. If we don't have any luck with that, we will try that next road up to our right. Yeah, there he is. Okay, so he does continue straight. We are approaching a boundary of ours, so that is something that we need to bear in mind. Because he may cross out of our property, but either way, we'll follow as far as we can. Just had a question through from Chantal in Quebec. Good morning, Chantal, and welcome on board. Chantal is asking how we would establish whether tracks are fresh or old, and it's a good question. It's not easy. There's many different things you can look into, but one of the first things you look for is the clarity of the track. You can see and imagine if a human's walked down a road, you'd be able to see the definition of the track and the toes and certain parts of the foot depending on the sand. But the fresher, the more definition you'll see in a track, so that's one way of looking into it. And then another thing you can look for is whether other animals have passed on top of the animal that you're tracking. That's a good way of being able to establish whether tracks are fresh or not. If a nocturnal animal has walked over, or if a bird that we know is awake early in the morning, for example, a Cape turtle dove, they're notorious for walking down the roads early in the morning. If their tracks are on top of leopard tracks, then you've got an idea that the dove was there, obviously, before the leopard was. So you can guesstimate that there has been some time that's passed. But not easy. It certainly is not easy to establish accurately how fresh tracks are. I wouldn't be able to do it very accurately. I think some of the master trackers who sit up on the bonnets of the vehicles and have been doing it their whole life, they're in another league, and they could well be able to tell much more accurately how fresh tracks are. But yeah, a lot of people that say it's more of an art than a science, tracking, and I couldn't agree more. It's a tricky business, but there are some real maestros out there. What helps us is that because we are out here daily, we've got an idea where animals are, and because there are vehicles often driving roads, it's cleaning the slates, so it helps us to establish whether tracks are fresh or not, because we've got a lot of intel from that area, or from this area. The thing that I love about tracking is just imagining the leopard walking down this road, or the lion, or whatever animal it is you're tracking, while you're actually looking for it. Still going down here, and just before I arrived here in the Sabi Sands to start working for WildEarth, I was told that Mvula did have a young zebra foal kill in a tree in this clearing that we're approaching now, so it is an area that he has been known to move through, if it is indeed him. Over here, I wonder if we're going to be able to show this. It would be nice if we could. You can see where he would have scent marked in this bush. Oh, it's going to be difficult. Let me try and get a stick in. That way they're able to show. So, if we start with this track over here, you got that one?
I can't see it.
Can't see the track.
No, this is in the way.
Okay, and this one? All in the way.
Yeah, that one's okay.
So
I
here you
just
can see he's walked from here, another footstep here, and then he would have taken a few more steps out in this direction, but he's facing with his back into this bush, and he would have scent marked into this bush, and then this track here. You can see where he's come in, scent marked against this bush and continued. And for me, that's one of the beauties of tracking, is that you can tell that he's scent marked in that bush even though we weren't here to see it. And our imagination can do the rest of the work for us. It is something that, along with the smell factor of being out here, that we cannot get across to you very well or at all. But the other thing is the art of tracking. It's something that you do need to be here to be able to be involved in. It's very difficult for us to incorporate you in that aspect of the experience, sadly. You still continue down this road, and what will his next move be at this junction? He can either go left or right, and it appears that he may have gone left. Yeah, he's gone to the left. No. Okay. I'm just going to let the game drive stations in this area that he's moved into know where his tracks are crossing over the boundary, and then we shall return to where we actually found these tracks and have a look for Kunyuma over there. Good morning, can anybody copy me? Very good, it's Scott here. Just to let you know, tracks of, in all likelihood, Mvula head west, Nights. Copy, no other updates this side as of yet. Okay. But it's a pity that he did cross out into that area, and therefore we can't carry on following those tracks. But at the end of the day, it's all good, because by keeping track of all these animals collectively working together between the different areas, we can therefore help one another and keep track. And they might be desperate to find some leopard tracks that they can get their trackers onto this morning, and that set of tracks there might be exactly what they were looking for. And the same goes for us. They will call us and let us know if tracks of lion or leopard are heading into our area. So it may not have provided us with anything immediately this morning, but in the long run it'll come round, and we'll be repaid for investing our time here. So I'm fairly certain that these are actually Mvula's tracks, considering where they've headed. We know he moves there. Excuse me. Whereas Kunyuma would be less likely to go out there. So that's why I would like to head back into the area where I think Kunyuma's tracks may pop out, and it could well overlap with where his father Mvula had been early yesterday evening. This is a serious shot in the dark here, but I've just seen a blue waxbill fly out. There's a little bush. And I'm wondering if it doesn't have its nest hidden in that bush. And some of you may have seen, we managed to find a blue waxbill nest a few weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, and what they do is they build their nest very close to it, just above a very aggressive wasp's nest. And what this does is it acts as a security system, so that any predators trying to get at that nest will be attacked by the wasps beforehand. So it's a really cool relationship that they have. And incredible how the blue waxbill has worked out this free security service that's on tap. You just need to find the wasp's nest in order to get the security, and then build your nest above it free of charge. But no luck. Oh, blessings. Just got a question through from Raisa mentioning that she's seen in a photograph of mine that it appears that Kunyuma's feet or pads are slightly deformed. I actually didn't even notice that in the photograph, so I must have a closer look. But yes, you can tell in perfect substrate or sand, if leopards or lions do have a slight deformity, you can often note that and know exactly which animal you're tracking from that deformity. There was a leopard that we used to follow in a lodge where I worked in the southern Sabi sands that had a funny toe that we could distinctly see or pick up in its tracks and therefore know who it was that we were tracking for almost, or certain guaranteed. So that's a good question and good point, and I look forward to looking at that photograph to have a closer inspection. I haven't noticed anything as of yet in terms of actually when we are tracking, but again, I am not a professional. Some shiny, fresh elephant dung in the road. Sadly, this elephant has already passed by, judging from its tracks. But from early Well, I was hoping to find a set of leopard tracks heading in the opposite direction. I can still see tracks of the other leopard that we initially followed in Vula, in all likelihood, heading up this road, and I was hoping to find Kunyuma's tracks coming back. But he could well still be in this block to our right. It's a very big block and he could be bunkered down in there. I've just seen a little interesting bug. Let's see what this creature could be. Is it a bug? Is it a bagworm? Is it a leaf? You see this funny little... No, that just looks like a dead part of this plant. A dead leaf curled up. A major false alarm. I thought it was an interesting bug of sorts. Would have had to call up Mark for some of his incredible knowledge on the smaller little critters out here. Yesterday after the morning drive when we found that very interesting twig wilter bug, and he was showing me some of his photos. The strange little critters that we get out here, and he's got some incredible shots of different little bugs and insects. And it's the bugs and the birds and all the small animals that once you do take a closer look at them, you really can find some incredible beauty. The tricky thing is simply that they are so small, so very easy to overlook their beauty. That's one of the beauties of walking safaris as opposed to being in a vehicle. You tune in a little bit more with nature, and you're obviously moving very slowly, so relative to a vehicle. So you get to see a lot of the smaller things that you typically battle to see when you're in a vehicle. And smaller animals, insects, even smaller plants. And then you also get the adrenaline from walking around an area like this, even though the chances of something going wrong are really small actually, especially if you're going around with somebody who knows what they're doing. But the adrenaline and feeling it walking out here really is wonderful. Even if a little bird flies off a Franklin, you skip a few. Oh, look at this tawny eagle. Copy. There's a beautiful tawny eagle. It's going to be different. Should we try and get around the other side of it? Well, let's start like this, and we will try and move across to the other side of it for some sunshine, because at this rate it's just going to be a silhouette. So still a beautiful shot and beautiful bird. Oh, there we go. Brian's fixed it with some cameraman wizardry, and it is no longer just a silhouette. So this is the area where the buffalo kill that the two Matimba males made was lying a few days ago, and there's obviously still a few scraps here that these birds of prey are gorging themselves on. And in the next half hour or so, I'm guessing a lot of the birds of prey are going to start riding the thermals and then looking for food. Especially on a cooler morning like it has been, they wouldn't have attempted flying until things heat up, and it then becomes a lot easier for them. As the hot air rises off the earth, they catch free rides along with it, thus conserving their energy and making us here down on the ground very jealous with their ability to be able to soar effortlessly through the sky. thing for me to explain a little bit about walking safaris and what they entail and where you do. And there's many different types you can do. You could do a very basic walking safari, and that is basically if you were in an area like this, guests typically spend 3 or 4 nights. During your 3 or 4 nights stay, you could ask to maybe use one morning or one afternoon instead of going out and drive. You can use that opportunity to just do a walk. Walking safaris, we are actually covering quite large distances. Well, not large distances, but maybe 10 miles a day at least, but it all depends. It can be fine-tuned as you like it, and there you can walk from camp to team, setting up, breaking down your camp and setting it up at the next point that you walk to, so you never walk the same area, which is really nice. So you can do those kinds of walking safaris based out of semi-mobile tented, or mobile tented camps, but still quite luxurious. It's incredible how comfortable they can make the tented safari experience these days. So that's important to realize. It's certainly not roughing it. You'll have showers, and even if it is out of a bucket shower, you'll have hot showers every evening. And a sit down, it may be a lot, but you'll be sitting down comfortably. That's the other end of the spectrum, and there's obviously everything else in between. So you can just do one short walk when you're out on safari at a place like this. And most camps do have guides. In an area like this relative to driving them. So and try and make sure your guide does have that qualification, because it is that they've gone through the necessary training. And what you encounter along the way, it really depends. In terms of your you may not see nearly as much in the... Sorry, I'm just going to have a close look at this tree here. You're not going to see nearly as much on foot. And the big, smaller, and the tracking and flowers, the different things that are easier to overlook when you are driving around. That's where you gain a lot of enrichments. And if you do get a good sighting or an encounter with elephants or lion or rhino, any animal that is large and impressive and dangerous, obviously you get incredible memories and a serious adrenaline rush from doing it. So there's different aspects there's aspects of walking safari that you won't get on the driving safari, and vice versa. So it's nice to actually combine them. My ideal clients on safari would go on a morning walk and an afternoon game drive. If I could choose, that would be my ideal way to spend a day in the bush, because then you've got the cool morning when it's fresh and it's a good time to track animals on foot and just be out there exploring. And then in the afternoon go out and maybe ideally look at what you found on foot in the morning with the vehicle, and then be able to take photographs and be able to get a little bit closer to the animals without them charging you or running away. I'm just going to have a quick look in this dead tree here. I've seen a go-away bird fly awkwardly out of it twice now, and I've got a feeling it may have a nest in here. But I don't understand where, because it doesn't look like there's any good cavities, but I'm just going to have a closer look, because I've noticed it do the same maneuver twice.
coming out of?
No, I must be dreaming. Worth an inspection though. Can you hear some parrots calling? Oh, there one just flipped. Twin Dam, the Pan Road, tracks of Mvula, you can tell them crossed west over Balanites, and tracks of Kunyuma from Shibam Road, Philemon's Cutline, and Alnard and Chirapan, heading south. Quite a few spots this morning. A little bit. Thankfully, it's not too bad for now. Next. Yeah, in a marula tree, it's far away, but it's in a small clearing, so
Welcome back, everyone. Been a very peaceful morning for us so far. Now heading to the eastern corner of Kunyuma, and we did encounter an elephant at a time when we had lost signal. What happened was we went through a dip. And there were a couple of hooded vultures sitting in a tree, so I had to investigate a little bit further, and funny enough smelled leopard at the same time. Well, actually I smelled the leopard first, and then I saw the vultures. But we didn't really find anything except our friend the floppy-eared Ellie, and sadly couldn't get a signal from where he was, and he also went into that same drainage line. Not as serene and as peaceful as he was the other day when we first met him. He actually sauntered right up to the vehicle and gave us a good sniff. I think his trunk was just above the hood of the car. Landy, it's not a car, it's a Landy. And then he came and tapped to my door, and then whirled around and stomped off. Oh no, sauntered off. And I believe there is also another big bull elephant up here on Cheetah Cutline that was giving one of the vehicles a bit of trouble. I'm expecting he's followed a breeding herd into Torchwood. Friday, Saturday. None of the tracks that I wanted to find have, rephrase it, I haven't found any of the tracks. I haven't found any signs of any of the animals I was hoping to find some tracks of. I can see tracks of a vehicle that's been reversing all the way from Central Road. One of the guides had, I think it's that very big bull that we saw coming in camp yesterday morning. Did pretty much the same thing, put his head over the front of the vehicle, drilling in full must and quite frisky. Very high testosterone levels, sometimes to 50 times the normal levels of testosterone, and running through an elephant's body. And there is his dung. Looks like this is where he stopped running after them. He's here somewhere. I don't particularly want to encounter him after he's been chasing a vehicle. But I heard that he's followed a breeding herd somewhere into Torture. Where was that from? Linda. Linda in North Carolina. Morning, Linda. Thanks for your question. And Linda's referring to the grasses that are in bloom at the moment. The grass heads, in some cases, especially in certain light, when we look into the light early morning, Linda's saying some of the grasses appear to have a pinkish hue, wanting to know if that is their true color or if it's just the light of the camera. It is their true color. It is pretty much, Linda. There are some that are particularly pink, some of the panicans, but there are some that are very pale pink, and there's some that when you see them on their own they don't look like much, but looking across a patch of the same species of grass, collectively they do give off a pinkish to purplish hue. It's not only the flower heads, but in some cases the seed heads after they've flowered. Best time for them in the early morning. We will try our best to the next couple of days before we go try and capture some of them. There's an eagle. Oh, he's off again. I think that might be a booted eagle, or it could be a lesser spotted. I don't know. It's not a tawny eagle. Not a. And it's definitely a true eagle. It had feathered legs. But I don't think we're going to see it again. No eagle. Rare opportunity to get a fairly close-up view of a magpie shrike. Quite a few of them around, because they do live in family groups, these shrikes. There are a number of other shrikes as well that live in groups. There's the white crown shrike and the smaller helmet shrikes, two species of smaller helmet shrikes. And I can see some members of this family dotted around, each of them on a perch, hunting from a perch. The shrike family tend mostly to hunt from perches and snatch things on the ground, or that looked like it was had a bad leg. bush shrikes glean a lot of insects from branches and from leaves, catching small reptiles and things within the trees. A lot of the other shrikes hunt from perches. And there are even the odd few shrikes that impale their victims on thorns. And while a lot of people believe that it's for storage for later consumption, I believe it's at times when there is excessive supplies of food, a lot of insects, a lot of grasshoppers, a shrike will demarcate its territory by impaling insects. Mostly the fiscal shrike that does that, not many other species do. But when one considers what part of an insect the bird actually eats, which is the insides of the insect, and the hard chitin exoskeleton of insects sort of regurgitated in pellet form, much like an owl regurgitates a pellet of fur and bone. There's no nutritional value to an insect that's been impaled for a few weeks. It's just a dry shell. Sometimes you even get small amphibians and reptiles that get impaled, and they dry out pretty quickly. I can't imagine how a shrike would be able to consume that. Mummified amphibian. So I believe it's merely a territorial display. It's a warning to other shrikes that the territory is occupied, that insects are taken. Oh, Ellies. One elephant so far. Looks like a fairly young Ellie. There's the family. Get to see them. You can see a female and a calf, pretty thick here. Might have to turn around. See if we can find them. I think we might be able to get down back to Lair Road. Let's turn around, go back and have a look. Who it is first. I mean, getting a view of her through that tree, not really. Let's see. Oops. Sun might not be the greatest. There's an angle. Oh, right next to us. Hello, little one. I'm watching this female and there's a little one right here. Another female and calf up ahead. I think this is a young cow. At least 2 or 3 calves playing further on. And just quickly I'm amazed at Scotty's perseverance. Suddenly there's action. We've got things, Scott's got something to see as well. And we're going to have, hopefully this whole herd's going to come out in front of us. There's a very big matriarch that's about to come out onto the road. Big old, well, I'm not allowed to call them old. Maybe she stopped. Drakensberg Battalier, Drakensberg Junction. She's eating a lot of grass, this one, on the side of us. Should we try and creep down a little bit? Don't want to startle her by starting the vehicle. There we go. Okay, Scott's got something on the move, so we'll see you shortly. We're switching over, but Scott can come back to the Ellies. We've got some calves here that'll be playing. Off we go to Scott. I'll see you shortly.
Welcome back, and we've hit the jackpots again, this time thanks to Brian. Brian spotted this beautiful spotted cat, and I'm guessing it's quarantine, but we will let the professionals amongst you, the viewers, put forward your thoughts as to who you think it is. We've just got here, just found him literally a minute ago, and really it's been such a quiet morning for us, and then boom, jackpot. So our ridiculous luck continues. It looks like he's just laid down, which does actually suit us, so at least we can get a good view of him. There are some thick areas here that if he did head into, we would in all likelihood lose him, so I'm quite happy that he has decided to lie down. And just before we found him, I was thinking to myself, I wonder what the leopards are doing. Thinking back to yesterday with Kunyuma, I mean, yesterday we did follow him through some quite hot, when the weather was quite hot, he was on the move, so there's no rights or wrong, but it is interesting that I was thinking about it just moments before we... Hello, boy. He looks quite excited to come and say hello to us. He literally ran up to us to say hello. Wasn't that beautiful? How did that look through the camera? That must have been great. Awesome. Well, I didn't get a close enough look there, even though it was a close look, to tell exactly who he is. But a young male, and the reason why I think it's quarantine is simply because of we had tracks of his brother heading yesterday evening, well rather this morning, from where his brother did head last night. It was in a different direction to where we are here. Haven't seen quarantine for a while, maybe that's why he ran up to say hello. Maybe he's been missing us, not likely. But nice for us. I'm gonna just call this in on the game. Let other people know. Just his mobile now. Weavers. South of Ghana. Watch here on the left, Brian. He looks hungry, and that's a good sign for us that he may keep us busy for the rest of the drive looking for some food. Oh, sorry. A few holes here that I didn't see. Just need to go over carefully to prevent losing Brian. Because without Brian, you won't have any images. So it's a very
Hi everyone. I'm sitting quietly with the 3 calves, and there's a lot of pushing and shoving, and there is one little boy, the one on the far left, who is being a bit of a bully, and He was bullying the one that's gone to hide behind the bush. There are quite a few elephant around us. I can see the tops of trees shaking. So there are some Ellies feeding this little one. They're throwing plants around, throwing sticks and twigs. He's having his own little game. Sounds like Scott's got Kunyuma. Probably about I'd say maybe a 4-year-old. 3 or 4. All 3 of these calves are about the same age. This is not unusual in a herd with females timing their estrus. Just happens naturally, really. I don't know how many times I've heard from women who have been in all girl accommodation. Here comes the big mama now. Every time I say that, she stops. She's just wandering around from tree to tree. But you know how it is in a either girl housemates or girls who room together in college or varsity tend to all menstruate similar times. Kind of the same thing in animals. And usually have calves of similar ages in elephants. Let's see if we can move forward again. See these 2 little boys having their wrestling match. They always seem to manage to do it behind bushes. Best we're gonna get. Hello, child. Children. Ellie children. It's wonderful. There's another middle-aged, or rather early teen, not middle-aged, but a mid-child, a tweenie, further down the road. Come out, children, come out and play in front of us. Come and say hello. There's Mom coming, one of the big ladies coming out at the back. She's a lovely big car, probably coming to see what the children are up to. Tell them to stop playing with the car. Yeah, I think she just called them away. Little nursery group. He must have said something because they're following her. Try and move forward again. Let's see if it will work if we just use gravity drive. If it will take me there. Come on. Forward. Guess it's not working. Need more gradient. But yeah, I see that. Just moves them deep into the bush. Sorry, kids. All three. It seems like Grandma's the old lady, not old, the big female. She's the boss. I guess she's the teacher, she's the guardian today. Quite a big girl too.
Mustn't call girls big.
What?
Mustn't call girls big.
She's big in body. I didn't use the F word. I said big. She's lovely experience. Hope you enjoyed that. We're going to see if we can still see one or two of these other moms since the big matriarch coming out from the woodwork. Okay, Scott's got some good action. We'll go to Scott. We'll see you in a bit. One of the tweenies.
We are still following this leopard, and he did lie down for a while. There was a small herd of buffalo in the area that he stopped at. That's shouldn't. So now this area he's heading into, I think we can try and relocate him when he does cross through. This riverbed that he's heading down into. These are incredible. I just don't know this area off-road. I am concerned that we will not be able to cross here. Our best.
Hello everyone. Being out in the bush and being out there live has its technical challenges. We're experiencing some of that now and are working on it as fast as possible to get it sorted and get you back on the vehicle with us. Hello everyone. Being out in the bush and being out there live has its technical challenges. We're experiencing some of that now and are working on it as fast as possible to get it sorted and get you back on the vehicle with us.
Welcome back. We have found a place where we can cross the riverbed that he was heading into, but sadly, in the process of finding this spot, we did lose visual of him. I'm going to give it a minute or two, or maybe another 30 seconds rather here, to see if he hopefully doesn't pop out. He was heading in this area, into this area, but he could well have veered off. And it's very thick to our left, so which is where he was moving. But we do know the general kind of direction that he has been moving, and even though he has been zigzagging a little bit, it's not over yet, and just need to listen to any potential alarm calls that may give away his position from birds. Okay. Welcome back, and now that we are out of that riverbed, we have signal, and more importantly, we have the leopard. Copy. So thankfully he decided to lie up, and I wonder what vehicle does come here. It'll aid in being able to stay with him, and one of us could potentially loop across that riverbed if he continues to head that way. Which is exactly what he's doing now. So now it's decision time for us. We either stay with him for as long as we can now, which may be short-lived if he doesn't cross this riverbed, or head with the knowledge that if he does cross here, we're not going to be able to cross with him. I think we watch him for as long as we can from here and then around to the other side of this riverbed. Because there is a road that takes us quite close to it. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, hold on. We're going to have to try and get as quick as possible. Possible route. Line, but I'll try and relocate. Okay. Picking up. Well, okay. Apologies for the signal issues. Not sure what it could be, but there's other power, or any of our power, out here in the field to fix that. So, sorry. I do apologize though, but at least we are finding some great sightings of various animals between all these. So, dead end. Well, this hasn't proved out to be the best route, but oh, sorry, these things can happen. Small herd of buffalo. But sadly, we are not going to give too much attention. Passing through the middle of the herd. So pass through. Sorry chaps, we are in a bit of a rush. not too far. This may have been a little bit of time to get around because he still did have some distance to cover in that riverbed before he would pop out. So, back on the road. Okay, so it'll take us just a couple of minutes to loop around to where we need to get to start looking for him again, and basically go through a little riverbed, and the same that he, and I'm guessing I have spent some time in the actual riverbed and or popped out to the other side where we're going. Either way, it's quite a good along that riverbed on the northern bank. Last saw him, it would be to use as landmarks to help guide. A little bit further will be yeah. He's east of Weaver's Nest. He went down into that drainage line, and perfect. I'm just ahead of you, but he could pop out anywhere here. Probably from about 300 or 400 meters. So we were just on the other side here when we lost. Oh, I wonder if we could have made it on there in retrospect. Possibly could have. Oh well. Going to be somewhere on our right. There's been no sign of tracks coming out onto travel. So that's good. hasn't already come here. That way we can go back and look for him if we still think he is in there.
Well, we've been watching this pair of kingfishers displaying. I'm hoping to catch them on camera, but they keep flying off behind some trees, behind some branches. We had a few more Ellies as we were coming down, and we're in the Milwaukee River at the moment. Actually, we can probably get out over here. I'll head over onto Nyala Road South, because I think some of these elephants are moving over towards the Nyala Road South. There are some mud pans there. Some of the youngsters might splash in mud. They're back at that, facing off another kingfisher now. A couple that must be courting, and I think they've got a nest somewhere in this dead knobthorn, the monkey thorn. I'm not seeing a hole anyway. That doesn't mean anything. They seem to be quite possessive over that tree. I want to see if some of these elephants have maybe moved through the drainage line, coming out on this side, and a little bit more open here. Best we could get there was maybe a glimpse of an ear or a swish of a tail. Still in and out of that drainage line trying to find, I think it's Kunyuma. Such luck. far now from Battalier Road where we saw them, so I think they're not coming through anytime soon. I guess we move on. I'm gonna do a loop around, maybe on Vulture's Nest Road, and then we'll see if we can pick up some of them again. South going to Central Road and then Vulture's Nest. Okay, copied. Was he heading west or okay, well, I am looping back around to Spaghetti Junction, and maybe I'll check the riverbed then. Scott had dogged determination all day for a cat. That particular cat, Kunyuma. Sorry, Claire. Claire was sent an email to say I got the name all wrong. Kunyuma. I don't know. Pronouncing it differently. Thank you, Claire. Leopard shapes in the tambuti tree. It's the second phantom leopard we've seen today. There are certain trees that have, when the light falls on them in a certain way, can't ignore things like that. Whenever you come on safari, don't ever be shy to point something out. Don't ever be shy to say, oh, I saw something and want to check out what it is. Might want to get a second or closer look. And you should never think that you're going to be ridiculed or laughed at or anything. Because every now and then when you do see real, when sometimes you just have to drive. I've driven past and you look at trees and you think, oh, that could have been something. You didn't any close to things. You don't want to head the other way. finding a place to turn around, I guess. Or we could continue, go back to Buffelshoek Dam, it's another option. Buffelshoek Dam, we weren't even hippo there, it was pretty funny. Starting to get warm now, and I'm expecting that some of these dams, at least one or two of them, somewhere, elephants are going to want to get into the water. Starting to push. Many questions coming in this morning. Thought weekend we'd have a few extra viewers. Hello Kudu, that we don't have during the week. Look, there's a little kudu in the road up ahead, and a little kudu right next to us too, eating the white berries of the berry bush, the white berry bush, potato bush. Hello. Can't be too old. It's only maybe a month or two. Mom is very interested in something up ahead. I saw another kudu and calf up ahead. I don't know if she realizes that it is. I think she saw some movement and been standing there since we arrived, stock still, ears forward. Yes, hello Mrs. Kudu. You didn't know we were here, did you? No, just keeping an ear on us rather than an eye. The ears are listening back here. Hello squirrel. Oh, up a tree. I see down the road is another kudu and her calf. That's about, that makes 3 cows and calves. Looks like they're very alert for some reason. Calf is nervous. Not through us, I don't think. But maybe nervous because Mama's so not quite relaxed. Tail's not flicking. And both of them looking at, there's something in between the two kudu that looks like they were looking at. Unless it's each other, unless it's 2 different groups that are coming together. I guess we'll see what happens. This will be interesting if they don't move off the road. I'd like to see if they do have any interaction. See if the little ones notice each other. Hello, Heather. From up in Alaska. Heather's kind of like a sister, in a way, a distant sister. Wanting to know about the markings on the inside of the kudu's ears. It's mostly the network of veins, Heather, and the hairs that are associated with the ridges within the ear, I guess, all part of the hearing. And no doubt the difference in color giving an indication of where the ears are pointing so that other individuals can see which way the ears are facing. And I think we might just have 2 different groups passing each other. One group coming one way and this group going another way. She isn't very relaxed, but I guess with the calf like that, it's important to be very attentive, very aware of everything around you. The slightest noise, the slightest sound of a branch or a twig or a leaf. There is something in here, because she was going in there, something spooked her, something chased her out, and since we're here and there's no interest shown in us whatsoever, there's definitely something deep in the bush that's troubled her, that has got this cow on our right also very interested. What makes it even more interesting is that she keeps going back in there. And mostly it's, if you look carefully, if we can ever get to see it real close up, you'll notice that the reddish interior of the ear, obviously that's the hairs and the coloration. It's got the paler outer markings, and there's another kudu standing in there, so I don't know if that's, I don't know why she would be running. Maybe she just heard kudu feeding and she got a fright. But there, I don't know how close we can get to the to looking at her ears. But part of the color is, I suppose, earwax. Part of the color is dirt and ticks and things. There's seems to be, the darker parts seem to be more muck than anything else. Those lines that you see are actually ridges of cartilage, I guess, to give the ear, being such a large ear, it gives the ear a lot more structure, a lot more rigidity. Otherwise they would just be floppy. But you can notice when they're in the shade like this, and as kudu are social within a group, when a kudu is focusing its hearing on something in particular, the colorings of its ear help other kudu to see where that focus is and to, I suppose, direct their attention there as well. The sun is starting to cook. So let's go down Vulture's Nest. I think it's possibly, or most likely, that their nervousness and their attention or their concentration is because they have young calves with them. Got to be extra careful. Leopard, this is ideal leopard territory and leopard habitat. And a leopard will quite easily take one of those calves. Both Heather and myself, good examples of how good things can get after a transplant. We've both had a renal transplant, and there's always a, I guess, some with that being common ground, there's a special bond with fellow transplantees or donors. It's interesting to note that technology and things are changing so much or so fast that probably not only a few years away that organ donation will be a thing of the past, because they'll be either artificially grown or artificial organs to be able to do the same thing, to save many, many lives. I don't want to see if we can sneak up on this harrier hawk nest. Usually flies when it sees us, if it's not out already. Yeah, more or less. I think Scott's managed to find him again in Kunyuma. No sign of the gymnogene. Gymnogyps is its name. Currently known as African Harrier Hawk. There it goes. Oh, that's something else. That's not the Harrier Hawk, I don't think. There's another bird that flew out of this torchwood. It looked like it could have been a brown snake eagle. No, there it goes. Is the Harrier Hawk. I still prefer the old name, Gymnogene. Beautiful yellow face. Quite a unique bird of prey, nothing like it in the eagle world. And as I say, neither harrier nor hawk, but I suppose there are reasons why they call it such. The closest it gets to being a harrier is that it manages to cling to vertical or even cling to the undersides of branches where there are holes, birds' nests, and it's able to feel around in the holes, crevices and cracks that you might find either in trees or cliff faces, able to put its claws, its talons in there and feel around for chicks. Or anything really. Geckos, baby squirrels. Its ankle joint actually has a lot of flexibility. It bends through probably a further 100 odd degrees. Well, no, I'd say it's just an extra 30 degrees backwards. Not 100. But gives it flexibility to feel around in crevices and cracks and holes in trees. Let's see if we can catch up with elephants before the end of the morning. Cindy wants to know, this is Cindy in California, could it be aware from the lion spraying the vehicle the other day? No, that wouldn't have been it, Cindy, because they were already, I think wind was wrong, but they were already, they were concentrating on something before we even got there. They might react to it somehow, but not in that sense. They were reacting to sound rather than smell. It was very, very clear, it was very, very evident that what they were reacting to was a sound that they had heard. You could see how the ears were pointed forward, how they were listening intently to something, barely moving a muscle. When I spoke or when I moved, the one kudu, her ear turned around to listen, and she was also turning around to listen to the calf behind her, but immediately swiveled back around to the front. So definitely nothing that they were reacting to scent-wise, but rather got battling. Finding the cat and then losing the cat. It's a very thick bush where they are. Copy that. Past an elephant, we were out of signal range, or rather we dropped the signal, maybe because I was on the game drive radio. And yeah, again, pinkish grasses of different types, herringbone, bottlebrush grasses. This is herringbone. Lovely pinkish hues. As I was saying, we passed a small group of elephant down here in this thick riparian forest, and it seemed like one cow, it seemed like she was sulking a little bit, had her head in the bush. Still gave off that aura of being upset, emotionally upset, not angry or anything, just upset. Morning, Lisa. Lisa wants to know if I've ever witnessed an encounter with lion and leopard. I have, on many occasions. We had one, in fact on camera we've had a few. We had, I think it was Mishu or Nduna, it was one of the two, just near quarantine, up in a marula tree with the entire Kunyumas walking on the road underneath. I don't think they realized that he was up there. But I have had other times where I've had lion chase leopard up a tree and actually try and climb after them. There was a time, one of the most amazing encounters I've seen was probably in about 96, mid-90s, when I was in Nyati, which is near Dubi, Ulusaba, Leopard Hills. And these Ellies like they might have moved further. We'll go up onto Central Road and come back again. See if we can't find them again. There might be an elephant up ahead. A youngster. Looks like the back of an elephant. Big male leopard by the name of Mbombi. Yeah, there is. Here's another herd. Moving through. As I said, it's quite thick, this riparian forest. We're on the edge of quite a big drainage line, and quite a few Ellies around. We don't want to startle them. Hello children. Anyways, Mbombi was a very big leopard. I'll just finish the story quickly. He was one of the biggest males I've ever seen. He was about 11 years old at the time. He'd been caught in a snare once, so he had a very distinct scar around his neck. That's another story to tell. But he was treed by the two big males from the pride at the time that was around Inyati, and it lasted for quite some time. They wouldn't give up. So big male leopard and two big male lion. Big sister. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. I think that's a little boy. There's Mom coming through. It was here we had that female with her head in the tree, wasn't it? I think it was here.
This one left of the tree. Left of this.
Head in the tree. It's the small family unit. Now I would imagine that all of these elephants that we've been seeing, although they appear to be separate, although they appear to be somewhat far apart, I'm very sure that they're traveling together. They're all moving in the same direction. There's Mom. I don't know if it was her that was putting her head in the bushes. They're all moving north, and they're all going to end up at Littleshoek Dam at some point later this morning. I'm pretty sure of that. This is Big Sister. There we go. Trunks up. Tracy in Victoria, have I ever touched an elephant? And what does its skin feel like? I've never touched an elephant other than one particular elephant, and at the time I wasn't really considering what the skin felt like, although I guess you could, if I have to try and remember. It's like sandpaper in a way. It's like hardened leather. I was mostly only feeling the skin around the legs and the trunk and I wasn't exactly feeling it with my hands. I know that sounds a bit cryptic. Basically I was underneath her and she was mauling me and kicking me around, and I was underneath her, so it was a very tense experience, very frightening, I guess, in some ways, but it was a kind of a life and death thing, and I was struggling for my life, so didn't really get to consider what the texture of the skin was like. There are a bunch of, here's some more Ellies. There are a bunch of elephant orphanages or elephant back safari places. There's a place called Elephant Whispers. It's a nice big golden orb here too, one of the biggest of the season so far. Can't see the elephant though. I'm going to try and get you closer to the spider.
They got it.
If I go back a little bit, you could have the elephant in the background, but it's behind the guarri bush. Beautiful golden orb spider, for those of us who like spiders. So I'd say it's quite a big herd of Ellies this, and they are quite well spread out in their individual family groups, mom and children. And I guess it's because the bush is quite thick, so they're able to spread out a lot, keep in touch with each other, so that they're not all making too much noise. Go forward. A little one, tiny little one in here with this cow. Hello, Oriole. Very dense, just the vegetation just left of her, on our left, not on her right, is from a pushed over knobthorn that is protecting so many trees that are coming up. And I don't know if any of you remember, I was talking about how elephants, how their feeding habits are so important to the regeneration of vegetation for the next generation of elephants to feed on. But it's not destruction, it's farming, it's taking care of their environment. It's almost like they have a relationship with the termites that are needed to break down all of this wood and feed the plants that are coming up. I'll go back a little bit so you can see her face better. Always clear.
You can go back.
Like there.
Yes.
And then she just walks forward. Feeding on grasses at the moment. She's picking all the grass heads of what looks like Panicum maximum, the large Panicum grasses. Very very palatable grass, the Panicums and Eragrostis. Just about see the little one behind her. Hiding in the shadows. A teenager coming to greet the little one. Pity it's so thick though. Go further, see if more of the herd is up ahead. Magical morning with elephants. The other herd, or the rest of the herd, or other Ellies, other families up here who are also moving north, maybe on Central Road by now. Some of them are moving and I suppose eventually making their way up towards Buffelshoek Dam. Some of them, like this lot, browsing slowly, barely moving at all. There'll also be a time at some point during the heat of the day to get a big marula tree that's got a good crown, throws good shade, a nice big circle of shade. They'll rest up for the day for an hour or so. Not the day, they'll rest up for some time where Mom will relax her trunk and stand there and have a nap, and the kids will lie down and go to sleep for a while. Might have missed them. First lot, they might have already crossed through here, heading north. little one sleeping already in the shade behind her. I don't know, can you see that?
A little bit. About
Forward or back?
sure.
Oops. Well, never mind, I've now stalled. Hello, Mrs. Ellie. We wanted to see your baby sleeping at the back there. Can we see your tongue? People have asked about your tongue. No, that didn't help. You blocked your tongue. Pulling creeper out. I wonder what that is. That looks like the Sphedamnocarpus. Maybe. Wind it up, girl. Wind it up in your trunk. That's strange. We saw him. Evidently, the floppy ear Ellies has been a Jimmer waterhole. We saw him northeast of the waterhole, heading east. He must have done a big loop and headed back to the waterhole. He was in a bit of a mood when we saw him. That little one, yeah, the little one's still sleeping at the back. Just behind her. If I can go back a little bit, maybe you'll see it. You just see its tummy, yeah? And the tail. So she's feeding while children are napping.
Sign up.
Yeah, but it can stay on her. Don't have to look at me if we got an elephant to look at. We are about to be signing off this morning, and great that we've had some wonderful sightings. Glad you managed to see the leopard with Scott. He did spend a lot of time trying to find him again for you. He hasn't had much luck. Very thick bush where he was. Also with us, not the greatest for Ellies, but a nice peaceful herd of elephant that we've been sitting with. Thank you for joining us, everyone. My name is Mark on behalf of Scott and Brian and Jason on the other vehicle, Alex in final control from VM, and myself. This has been our morning drive here at Kunyuma Game Lodge. Join us again this afternoon at 1600 or 4 o'clock Central African time, and we'll see what we can find for you then. Goodbye all, good night, sleep well, have a fun weekend, love you lots. Bye bye. Bye bye Ellies.